Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for being here with me. Tyler Ellison, here with my friends Mario and Lynn. They're going to be doing our channeling hosting for today. I know we're starting about 20 minutes later than we said we would, but that's the nature of Fridays. I don't know if you like taking it easy on a Friday. I love taking it easy on a Friday. This is like a big recharge day. And I feel incredibly fortunate because on my personal recharge day, I'm able to come in and do these live streams. And it is such a Kickstarter. My weekends, my Saturday, my Sunday will have this amazing levity and momentum. I've been fortunate enough to channel for a bunch of people in person, and the in person experiences are super rewarding, super powerful. And I feel personally that I am stimulated and energized with all of you guys in the exact same way as when I'm doing this kind of stuff live and in person. And that's an amazing thing because we're dispersed all over the planet. We have people here from East Coast, West Coast, USA. We have folks tuned in from Europe. I know we also got some friends from Japan here with us too. So I appreciate this amazing support. And me, Mario, and Lynn were talking just before this, and we were describing how it might look like we're all hanging out and we're seeing this interaction from behind a phone or behind a tablet or a computer. But that is kind of a pleasant, convenient disguise or representation of the group connection. If we were to really see this in a multi-dimensional way, what we would find is all of us are like stars. And this is a massive constellation that envelops the entirety of the planet. And when we bring the ETs in, that group consciousness is then amplified through the craft and the beings since they're synchronized over the major vortex points. So this is a very powerful step in the process of achieving not only open contact, but the version of Earth that truly represents your preference and has always represented your preference. So that kind of malleability we have access to. Any type of limit that we experience is a temporary limit. All limits have building blocks, and you could say laws of nature that sort of govern how the limit energy manifests. If we can understand how that's constructed and we can understand how to work with energy, we can break down any limit. So this is where miraculous transformation and manifestation becomes automatic, becomes totally natural. So before we dive into the channeling today, my friends, I want to open with a few exciting points. We were talking about how special this stuff is when it's experienced live and in person. If you desire powerfully to join us at the West Virginia Channel panel, then please come and join us. Consider this your invitation. At this channel panel, you're going to experience me, Daryl Anka, Rob Gauthier, Lisa, oh, I forget her last name. She's an Akashic record reader. I was just watching her interview with Rob Gauthier yesterday. Fantastic woman. Jamie Price, Neil, not, I'm going to say Neil Goddard. That's not him. That's a different Neil. But we have Neil from Portal to Ascension, who's also going to be there too. It's a huge gathering of soul family. And each of these presenters are also going to have in-person workshops. So that means you can learn directly from Daryl Anka. Some people also are going to be bringing their channeled entities into the workshops. You're going to be learning directly from channeled entities. In some cases, I myself will be giving a workshop teaching how to telepath with extraterrestrial beings and how to turn on inner communication. So you never have to feel lost or uncertain about what your next step is. And you never have to feel vague in terms of what your guides are encouraging you to focus on. So this is going to be November 14th through 16th in West Virginia. And we're going to go deeper in terms of our events. Just after this, just following this at 2:30, we are going to be doing our October magical ritual. We're going to harness the powers of Sagittarius, and we're going to launch as a group consciousness into the parallel reality that represents our individual and collective preference. So if you are passionate about magic, if you are passionate about exploring multidimensional power, then come join us right after this live stream. Two more announcements, and then we'll go right in. This Monday, we're going to be doing on Patreon a Crystal Skull RYOKAH transmissions. This is our Patreon exclusive. transmission. So for those that are in the middle tiers of Patreon, this transmission is included in your subscription. If you want to join this transmission, we do have tickets for sale. If you join the Patreon, you don't just get this transmission, you get a whole archive. You get a whole library of RYOKAH, as well as many trainings that we've done through the Patreon, ranging from astral projection to energy healing to divination. There's all types of amazing stuff on there. So that's going to be this Monday. This is the Crystal Skull Council. So if you're curious about the 13 Ascended Masters, if you're curious and passionate about the powers of the crystal skulls, if you've worked with them, this is going to be a big activator. The final announcement that we have, this is for our upcoming Sassani Universe event, and this is going to be November 2nd. And this is the Mantis Mothers. This is the Mantis transmission. And these are some of the most occult beings within the extraterrestrial narrative. And I find that we know more about a species like the Greys than we do the Mantis beings. I know more people channeling Greys than I do people who are channeling the Mantis. So there are some powerful Mantis channelers out there. My friend Tony Ghazi, he does some fantastic work with the Mantis Collective from Antares. So we will be tuning in to that Mantis Collective, and we're going to be channeling them. So if you want to experience that connection, if you want to unravel those mysteries and learn more about this group that is a part of so many other extraterrestrial species, and I encourage you guys to join us on November 2nd. So those are our announcements. Thank you guys for tuning into that. And now that we have locked in with those stages, now we can move right in to the channeling. So for those of you that are new, I'll go into an altered state. I'm going to close my eyes. I access telepathically my extraterrestrial counterpart and guide, RYOKAH. And once that link is made, he's going to speak through me. We'll deliver a teaching for today. And then we're going to open it up to all of you to submit whatever questions are most resonant with your heart, your curiosity, your spiritual pursuits, and what's going on in life. So there's so many things happening right now, collectively, and I know for a lot of people on the personal level. So if you find that you're seeing patterns in society, patterns of experience in your life and in the lives of those around you, feel free to bring that kind of stuff up. The more we're able to penetrate into the nature of the reality, regardless of whatever level, the more wisdom, knowledge, and skill we gain. So there's no such thing as a bad question. I'm sure you've had your teachers say that to you before in school. I certainly have had mine say that to me before. So feel free to submit that which is on your mind and that which is on your heart. My friends, let's dive deep. I will not delay us. We're going to do some trance channeling. So give me just a moment here. I'm going to configure my video a little bit. Perfect. I appreciate you guys joining me. Happy Friday, and let's get started. Why don't we thank each and every single one of you for joining us for this ecstatic, co-creative interaction that we share with one another, this here, this now. Before we begin with the questions, we are going to dive deep into a topic that is near and dear to all of you, and that is the recognition of the source of light that rests within the nucleus of your being. This source of light, which you can conceptualize as a spiritual sphere of consciousness, is a fractal sphere. And what I mean by this is the center of your earth possesses a type of multidimensional sphere of consciousness that is energetically anchored into its center point. The same can be said for your sun. The same can be said for all of the stars. The same can be said for all of the planets. When you conceptualize your spiritual core, your spiritual beingness, begin to see it as a type of luminous egg within you that radiates light. For some, they will experience this within the heart center. For others, they will experience it in the lower abdominal area. The area is sometimes referred to as the lower dantian. When you train yourself to return to this center point of luminous light, you allow for yourself to energetically align with that infinite fractal pattern that unifies your spiritual core and the spiritual core of all beings of the surface of your earth, as well as those macro levels, the spiritual core of the earth itself, the spiritual core of the sun, the other planets, and ultimately the stars. So from that inner alignment, you resonate with the center point of the all. Remember, if it's truly an infinite universe, that technically means every single point, every single perspective, every single position is technically the center. So that idea, this is already something that many of your scientists buy into. And that level of centeredness, your spirit, your nervous system, your mind knows what that feels like. You've experienced it before. Many of you, when you are children, before the ego is fully crystallized, that is the center point that many of you are eternally resonant with. You are still resonant with that center point. It is simply that the illusions created from the mask that are based in separation cause one to temporarily forget that center point, or to even buy into the idea that it's somewhere outside of them and they need to seek it. So when you return to that spiritual center point, be it the center point of the heart, be it the center point of the belly, when you begin to energize that center point as an orb of light, you will find that your manifestational vortex increases in its vibrational frequency. It will start to pool synchronistically into your direct experience, the information, the people, the resources, the experiences, the connections that are designed to assist you in your evolution, your expansion, and the fulfillment of your spiritual will. This is the template, blueprint, program that you came in with, that you were one with before the generation of the mask. Remember that the mask, it's not to be destroyed. You don't have to rip it off. That's not the point. Remember, the ego personality is what gives you a sense of character in the story. A healthy mask is a mask that accurately represents your spiritual nature, your authentic nature. So even the spiritual person has a mask. It's just the spiritual mask. The guru has a mask. It's the mask of the guru. The angel has a mask. It's the mask of the angel. A mask that is healthy, an ego that is healthy, will accurately and smoothly reflect and represent and communicate those underlying levels that represent the authenticity of the mask wearer. So in that way, it's like you're all at a masked ball, dancing, spiraling on the dance floor. That is the earth experience, if you allow for it to be that. And as you know, at the ball, sometimes there are those whom are trying to fit in. What's everyone else doing? And there are those whom choose to be one with the moment, one with the music, one with the heart-to-heart connection that is the entirety of the experience. And that is what you are all moving into. Remember that your earth is like a game, but that game is not fixed. There's many types of games on your world, as you know, be it board games, card games, video games, and across that spectrum, there's many themes of games, many ways to play. You will find that through returning to that earlier childlike mentality of playing games and getting good at that will directly serve you here. It will directly serve you now. When you anchor into your source of power, you connect, like I mentioned before, to that original template. This will allow for your power to flow into your core through your chakras and meridians, and it will then overflow into your world. Instead of you seeking things, you will be creating things. Instead of you longing for something, you will be creating something that is brand new and represents the best of the best of the best of what your timeline has already given you and has yet to give you. When you create from the inside out, your signature frequency is impressed upon the entirety of creation. That is the power of that fractal alignment. That's the purpose of it. So these techniques in ancient times, these ideas in ancient times were often kept secret because once that alignment is achieved, all types of effects can be brought into the reality. And of course, in those ancient times, because there were caste systems, those who knew these techniques said, those in the lower castes, they're irresponsible or they're not mature enough. They can't handle this. You are all at a stage now of such evolution and maturity. To not share these things would be to deny you that which is natural to you, that which is essential to your being. So when I share these words, when I share these techniques, I am speaking to the co-creative God, goddess, source avatar that is the mask wearer. You can modify your mask as needed. That is what is occurring whenever you let go of outdated belief systems and choose spiritual truths as your belief structure. Anytime you do this, you're transforming the mask and you are allowing for it to become transparent. So the light that you are can accurately communicate with those that you co-create and the experiences that you co-create within your physical reality journey. We thank you for receiving this opening information. We make ourselves now available to you for your questions, your sharings, and your curiosities.
Hello, dear friend. Thank you so much for this beautiful transmission.
Of course you are so welcome. We thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom, your light. We are ready to begin.
The first question is how to mentally and energetically meet, thrive, and vibrate at one's highest when experiencing extended illness and pain.
So the first thing to do is to recognize that validation of the experience will naturally bring you higher. So whenever there is suffering, radical acceptance of the suffering will automatically elevate your frequency and it will liberate you. So that means if there's pain, if there's fatigue, if there's negative emotion or negative thoughts, whatever it is, just accepting that that's happening, validating that that's a necessary step, that right there will create levity right away. Resistance to it, this is bad, this is wrong, blame, will cause this type of energy stagnation and the corresponding symptoms to become more greatly densified. Because if negative views are used, if resistance is used, this will cause one's consciousness to synchronize with the deeper levels of the earth experience, and that can actually crystallize those symptoms to a certain degree. So through the acceptance, through the validation of the suffering, that type of densification is prevented, and it allows for the spiritual intelligence of nature itself to begin to once more flow through you. So the first step is that acceptance. It is that validation. The other thing to emphasize here is the following. Do not chase the highest when you are at your lowest. It might seem like that's the thing to do, but that's compensation. That's ego compensation. I'm at my lowest, so I need to grab my highest. That's like a person who has social anxiety, who perhaps doesn't talk to people or feels uncomfortable most of the time. They're a little quiet, reserved, who then to compensate shifts into hyper posturing, becoming overconfident, maybe even sort of a dominator. To the ego, it will look like the opposite of the situation is where they need to move to, where they need to go to. That's not the case. What you are to move into is the next rung on the ladder. Gradually raise your frequency. How to do this? Once you have gone through the acceptance, the validation, and this is not just a simple, I accept it, I validate it, bring that awareness through your whole body. Let it be a whole process. Wash your body, do body scanning with your consciousness. Go into that deep acceptance. I accept my body as it is. I accept my template. I accept my DNA. I accept all manifestations. Really go into that. Let it be a deep experience. Once you are here, once you have fully accepted this, and you have gone into a state of peacefulness, and that might not be perfect peace, but it will be relaxing. It will feel better. Once you are at that level of openness, then begin to replay the moments of your timeline that have brought you joy, that have brought you satisfaction, that have brought you pleasure. Just start to see a little movie, go one by one by one, and you're going to start to feel positive energy circulating through you. You might even feel pleasure in whatever energy center you're visualizing this sequence of events. And you can rearrange the order, whatever you like. You don't have to follow those events linearly. Just pick the best of the best, go into those positive states. And once you feel that energy really glowing, start to circulate that through the body and bring that energy to the areas of discomfort. Start to breathe into those areas and start to bring that pleasure, that satisfaction, that enjoyment into the regions where suffering once dwelt, but no longer. If you can bring those energies to those areas that were resonant with suffering, those energies will transform that blueprint. They will bring that area back into alignment. So again, this is a deep process, not something done lightly, not something done for 2 minutes. If you really immerse those positive feelings into those areas, you'll start to see the symptoms reduced. You'll also start to see that your body returns to alignment. So you may have to supplement this with something. Maybe you're working with a physician. Maybe you're working with a natural doctor. Whomever you're working with, continue those protocols and use that energy of transformation to accelerate the healing process. And what's going to happen is that positive energy translates as you grabbing that next rung on the ladder. And as the energy builds, the next, the next, the next, and you gradually begin to elevate your frequency back to that level of infinite alignment, which you describe as the highest level. If you just go right to the highest, you may find that the ladder's quite tall. And if you're not feeling up to it, it might be challenging to make that leap. So go step by step by step and be patient with that, be accepting of that, because that's what's going to allow for you to make it to that place of integration more smoothly. But that starts with you. It starts with you. You pull that through you, through remembering the positivity you've always contained. When you review the best of your timeline, that energy becomes apparent.
Thank you very much. Such a useful information.
You're very welcome.
Our audience is also curious, why do they call Gaia an Earth star? Will she become a star when she is a certain dimension, such as 9D?
So this is a esoteric portrayal of Gaia, and it is an accurate one. So I'll explain it in the following way. In the beginning of our transmission today, we mentioned that the core of the Earth is like a luminous sphere. That sphere is transmitting energy through the ley line network to all beings that are of the Earth. Those beings are also attracting starlight in from the various constellations and celestial bodies. Your chakras are portals that connect to these different celestial regions. So Earth is nourishing all of you from the ground up. The cosmos is nourishing all of you as that starlight shines down. This causes your consciousness to evolve, and because you are extensions of the Gaian consciousness, it also causes the Earth's consciousness to evolve. And as your consciousness evolves, you become more and more and more high vibrational in nature, and that will visually translate as an influx of photonic energy that is increased gradually over time. And that will cause all the beings of the earth to appear to be glowing. So imagine looking at a tree and its aura, its electromagnetic field and beyond is visible to you. Imagine looking at your neighbor, your brother, your sister, and you can see their energy field. It will be like this. It will be like the whole earth is glowing. And in that way, your earth becomes a star. Now, let's talk about how the earth continues to evolve. And it is a multiversal earth that you are on. I'll explain that in depth. It is a multiversal earth that you are on. And what do I mean? There are infinite versions of the earth experience. The earth template is a very special template, and it plays out as an energy pattern and frequency across many universal bodies. And each universal expression of earth acts as an evolutionary experience for what you call the soul of Gaia. In this universe, which you consider to be a more evolved universe compared to the others, in this universe, many of those skill sets, lessons, understandings from the Earth experiences within the other universes are all available here for Gaia as a being and for all of you. So your Earth exists within infinite realities simultaneously. There is a version of Earth that ascends into a non-physical luminous perspective. This does not mean the end of physical Earth. The physical Earth will still remain, so beings can incarnate upon it and can evolve in luminosity. So there is an Earth that ascends through that influx of light, literally transforming the materiality into higher particles of matter that exist on the spectrum of non-physical light. So it's a literal transformation of the particles and the subatomic particles through light, and it elevates it to a higher template. So that type of evolution will occur, but it won't mean the end of physical Earth, because there's many Earths. So there will be a physical Earth for those souls that need a physical reality and need the physical evolutionary experience. And there is also a luminous Earth, what you would call a future Earth, that your Earth is in the process of becoming.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
The next question is the Anunnaki civilization that created us on Earth were also part of an interstellar alliance, and was the leading agenda, and what was the leading agenda of this alliance?
Sure. So they were a part of a interstellar or intergalactic community. However, this community in many ways was less human in nature. And what do I mean? The evolutionary focus that extraterrestrial consciousness was using during that time was a type of demigod-like or demi-deity-like focus. In the extraterrestrial mindset now, ETs, many of them have become more human, more down to earth, because just like you, they have learned about themselves through their ancestors, and they have learned about the qualities that need to be refined. They have learned about the belief systems that brought their ancestors into chaos, and they have grown from that. So in those ancient times, the extraterrestrial focus was a less human focus, because during those days, humanity wasn't really what it is now. So that focus was very different for the extraterrestrial beings. So their collective, their alliance, if you will, reflected some of the dramas and some of the stories that are associated with your Greek gods, and also with the Vedic stories as well. when you're reading about some of those dramas, you're learning about the dramas that some of these extraterrestrial species went through. And they don't all make sense if you read them literally, because these are earlier versions of humanity doing their best to describe some of these multi-dimensional phenomena. So, what was their main focus? This extraterrestrial collective, this, you could say, primeval or ancient interstellar alliance. Their main focus was creating different forms of life, guiding those different forms of life, experimenting with those different forms of life. Their main role was genetic engineering across the cosmos. What did these ancient species look like? Some of them, which you are familiar with, the Anunnaki, they possess more of what you would describe as a proto-human-like form. So they look the most similar to you. However, they possess genetics that are hybrid genetics. So many of those early Anunnaki had reptilian genetics that had been blended with theirs. So human, also slightly serpentine. These other ancient extraterrestrials, reptilians, grays, and those with the elongated heads from Sirius, some from Orion. Orion required a great deal of intervention. That was a faction that went rogue. It was originally a part of that ancient interstellar alliance, but removed itself. And some of the influence that it created had an effect on those Anunnaki that came to Earth. So this is why there are different factions of Anunnaki whom have different perspectives towards humanity, to Earth. Keep in mind that when that split happened, when the Orion group left, other groups watched. And some of them wondered if that was actually the right choice, because this was an experimental time. And some of those darker themes hadn't really been played out in the fullest way. So there were many species that went along with that, and there were others who saw it as problematic and sought to intervene. These are some of the same species that intervened on behalf of humanity once the Anunnaki presence there became domineering. So there are certain stories that have not been told yet, but there were in ancient times liberations of certain pockets of humanity from reptilian and Anunnaki beings that had become domineering in their governance. So modern extraterrestrials, they study all of this. They can see all of this. We do. And when we see this collective story, the lessons are apparent. They become obvious to us. So extraterrestrial consciousness has evolved quite a bit, just as humanity has evolved quite a bit. There are still certain pockets of humanity that are based in lower ego and perhaps are, by your standards, primitive. And of course, there are some extraterrestrial species that are like this. Nevertheless, it is your species' collective vibratory frequency that determines which extraterrestrial groups are permitted to interact with Earth. So you're all on your own Earth. Regardless of what you believe about your collective, you have the strongest effect upon which types of ETs, which types of consciousness can or cannot manifest on your version of Earth.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Up next is a hot topic. What can you share on the kind of technology operating 3i Atlas? How does it work on the physical and metaphysical aspects?
So, in terms of physical technologies, there are some that are utilized in the scanning process in measuring different gravitational fields, different photonic and electromagnetic fields. There are subtle instruments that allow for these different variables within the signature frequency of a given celestial body to be detected, and this is a part of the mapping process. Some of these physical technologies also have the ability to measure the particle alignment and geometry of these celestial bodies on that subatomic level. They also have the ability to measure chemical compositions. So this is a way of understanding the building blocks of the universe ahead of time. So 3i Atlas acts as a type of remote scanning, remote viewing device. These extraterrestrial species are utilizing it for the mapping of the universe and also for metaphysical psychic exploration. So these physical technologies are present within 3i Atlas for the physical measurings, and there are metaphysical technologies that are also present that allow for the different extraterrestrial factions involved to synchronize their consciousness with 3i Atlas. So it's not just that physical measurements are being taken. In their mind, in their body of light, they are journeying throughout the cosmos through synchronizing their consciousness with this celestial object and vehicle. So there are both physical and metaphysical technologies. This allows for the beings who are synchronized with 3i Atlas to project from the celestial vehicle into the world of the stars, into the world of the planets, into your Earth experience. So there are beings whom can be telepathed with, whom are absolutely synchronized with 3i Atlas. And these beings have a great deal to offer because they are explorers. That's what they do. And they are encouraging all of you to explore that final frontier that is both inner space and outer space. They must be explored equally if you are to truly ascend into the cosmos. And that is what they are here to assist you all in activating within yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And the next question is, what can you share more on the two main agendas of Enki and Enlil on Earth and beyond, and when did they exist on our timeline?
Sure. So in terms of their agendas, they both had similar agendas to start out with. The creation of life, the engendering of new species, the acquisition of materials that would support their world and civilization. This was their main focus. When they emerged on the planet, they brought in a variety of different forms, and they observed those different forms like a scientist would observe an ecosystem. They were detached for some time, watching these forms, watching how life would evolve. Now, they're not responsible for all life on Earth. They gathered genetic information from that pre-existing life and from their genetic library that was quite expanded due to the many travels and worlds they helped to engineer. So they have their own genetic library and they blend that with the already existing genetics of the Earth. And through that, they're able to bring in new species. So they played a creational role, and from there, an observational role. They became quite detached. While that was occurring in other regions of the Earth, they began their mining expeditions, and they had their own workforce, their own servant class they brought with them. These mining operations were very deep in the Earth. It's a higher level of density, and there's ancient species within those levels that already existed there. So this was an alien environment for that workforce, and eventually they became incredibly fatigued and exhausted from having to deal with that environment. They're having to physically acquire many of these resources. Even with their technology, it was still taxing for them. So this was when Enlil decided to create a working class that was of the Earth. Therefore, it would be able to handle some of those denser Earth frequencies. And some of the original forms of humanity were brought in at that stage. Humanity was stronger, taller, had multiple limbs, very good for physical tasks. These beings also had tremendous psychic power, so they didn't have to just rely on their muscles. So they made a super being. As you can see, that kind of story has a strong degree of relevance for your society now in your technological age. They created a super being. The super being, this early human form, was designed by Enki. Enki considered himself a genetic artist, so he took the best of the best of the best of the best of the best to create this early form. And this was very successful. There were, of course, certain programs that were placed within that early form to encourage its obedience. One program came from Enlil's genetic line, and this is the deity program. There is a being outside of me that I am to worship because it is responsible for my life. And it's beyond me. So that was given to humanity. The gift from Enki was that of higher imagination. And this was inserted intentionally because even though the mind might present a limit, a belief system, there's something outside of me controlling my life. Even though the mind can create that limit, the imagination has the ability to go beyond it, which can reveal a higher truth that displaces the limit. So you were given both a lock and a key simultaneously as a people. In terms of when this occurred on your timeline, this original creation, millions of years ago, about 2 million of your years ago. Your modern human comes on the scene about 1 million years ago. Higher human society, about 500,000 of your years ago. So your species is quite ancient. Your genetic template is very much connected to that of the original human. The idea is you are the most recent iteration, yet your genetic composition reflects the original template. In that way, your species, this modern human, Homo sapien as you call it, embodies both the alpha and the omega. Because this version of you represents that final stage in terms of physical evolution. The next level is your spiritual evolution, which will evolve you into what has sometimes been referred to as Homo galacticus or Homo luminous. So the spiritual evolution, of course, can also allow for those whom desire it to blend with extraterrestrial beings. And this can also create higher expressions of genetics where those blendings are compatible. So you are at a powerful time of ascension, a powerful time of evolution, and you have used your imagination collectively to dream beyond the limits, which has brought you here to this place of transcendence, activation, and divine embodiment.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Up next is an easy question. What is the creature or plant grown to a black multi-tentacle being from a small meteorite fell in Panama and reminds us of the being Venom from our movies?
You're going to have to repeat this question.
Of course.
Thank you.
What's the creature or plant grown to a black multi-tentacle being from a small meteorite fell in Panama and reminds us of the being Venom from our movies?
Sure. So there are certain extraterrestrial beings, forms of life, that will express in ways that are very strange, very alien. They don't look like forms of life that you are used to. There are some extraterrestrial forms that will manifest in a way that is somewhat mercurial. What I mean is the form will shapeshift, it will change. So there are some species that can almost look like a puddle of black goo, And that black goo would move as you would expect some type of liquid to move, but it can also move in ways that are unexpected. It could also climb, for example. It won't just have a downward movement. And because of this ability to disassemble and reassemble its form, it can assemble its form in very interesting ways. And that can look like tendrils, that can look like tentacles. So these types of beings tend to insert themselves into certain realities on a matrix level, just as they can form tendrils within physical reality. They can also form tendrils within a multidimensional space, and this can allow for them to connect with various ecosystems. So this particular species is an unusual one. It tends to exist on what you would describe as cosmic debris or cosmic rocks. And it contains within it vast amounts of ancient DNA. Whenever you see something that is black in that way, this is a sign of the foundation. So there is a whole genetic library within this being, and it can allow for all types of genetic sequences to be densified into more complex forms of life. So if this organism is studied and the genome is sequenced, this can allow for a breakthrough in humanity's genetic understanding and knowledge of the genome. This does not mean harm the being in the process. Be respectful, be responsible, of course. Just as you would want an extraterrestrial being to be respectful to all of you, should it desire to learn more. So, a great deal about DNA can be understood. A great deal about stem cells can be understood. A great deal of epigenetic information can be understood through studying the genome and sequencing the genome of this being.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And the next question is, Bashar has mentioned that contact requires a stable frequency of 200,000 cycles. How are we going to achieve this in such a short time?
By embodying it. Embody it and it will catch on. Light a torch and you can light the candles of those around you. You'll have plenty of fire. So don't worry about getting other people to 200,000 cycles per second. Get you to 200,000 cycles per second. How do you do this? The easiest way, the fastest way, is to create unshakable presence. Be unflinching. Be non-reactive. Not just to things outside of you, but within you. Return to that center point. Have a center point that to you acts as your present moment anchor of power. And each time you notice, oh, I'm thinking about the future. Oh, I'm thinking about the past. Bring yourself back to that center point and congratulate yourself. Let that be a reunion. Feel tremendous love. Choose to activate that feeling and that power of acceptance and completion each time you return to the present moment. Don't just rip yourself back to the present. I need to pay attention. I need to be here and now. Come on. No. You notice your mind wanders, bring it back, and then have a moment of love for yourself. Oh, look, we're back. Thank you so much, beautiful mind, for returning to this center point of peace and power. If you remain present, you will be a channel for the present moment, which means that multidimensional fractal alignment is in effect. When you are over here in the future or over here in the past, it's like you're away from that center. If you're away from that center, the energy alignment doesn't really manifest to its fullness, and that translates as a lower frequency. So the easiest way is unflinching presence that is based in love and appreciation. This will bring you to 200,000 cycles per second, easy, no problem. No problem at all. Now, what about all of those other people? Remember that it is one person disguised as many people. If you make it a bunch of different people, Now it's a bunch of different religions, political groups, belief systems, cultures, ways of life, values. Very complex. It's a lot to work with. But if it's all one person that is created by your nervous system, well, that means all you have to do is change yourself and sense within others. Just sense within others that change has already taken place. When you see someone walking down the street or you're driving in your car and you see other drivers, don't just see them as a person. Don't just see them as they appear. See them as a person who has elevated their frequency to at least 200,000 cycles per second. This doesn't mean deny what they're going through or how they're presenting. Hold both. Yes, there's a version of them that I can detect that perhaps has some baggage or perhaps is going through something that's rather heavy or dense. And maybe you see that, but also be able to see simultaneously that 200,000 cycles per second version of them. And as you hold both, they start to blend. And that power of the 200,000 cycles per second will naturally dissolve the resistances that are a part of that ego personality structure. And that might translate to them within 1 week's time, realizing some very important things about themselves and feeling empowered to make the changes that they know they need to make. So through your perspective and how you see people, you actually influence people, you impact people, you change people's lives just through how you see them. And you must see them as they are. That means not just the mask, but the one wearing the mask. See both. Do that from your inner alignment, that power of presence, that unshakable presence. And they'll follow your lead. They will say, whatever is going on right now, this represents something I know in my heart. It represents something that is bigger than me. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm going to follow it. And that doesn't mean they'll follow you necessarily, but they will follow that example and they'll continue it onward in their own life. So it is one person. And that will help you to make the one change you need to make.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
And the next question is, what can we expect energetically from the massive current comet activity? Is this an echo from the destruction of Atlantis?
One more time. Again, we're just going to have to ask you to speak up just a little louder, please.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
What can we expect energetically from the massive current comet activity? Is this an echo from the destruction of Atlantis?
The question is asking about the increased comet activity and what is the purpose of it? Why is that happening? Is that the question?
Yes, and is this an echo of the destruction of Atlantis?
It's not quite an echo per se, but there are some similar themes. If it were an echo, it'd be the same sound as before coming back to you. This is a very different energy. So there's similar themes being played out. In the ancient times, because of the unbalanced energy Atlantis summoned forth, a type of reflective destruction was brought into the equation. Your species has moved way beyond that. There are certain themes that are still being played out. There's warfare, of course. There's abuses of power, things like this. There's these things that you can look around in your media, you can look around on your internet, and you'll see many examples of it. So there's some similar things being played out, but the spiritual energy is completely different. So it's not summoning forth a type of destructive celestial experience. Because it's so different, the celestial experience that's being summoned forth at this stage is one of contact. So these comets, these celestial objects that are showing up, they are foreshadowing multi-dimensional consciousness and its emergence into your reality. So these celestial objects, and we have said this in the last live stream, we've said it in the one before that, we said it a little bit here, they act as technology. So species can, in a very physical way, experience your local cosmos ahead of time. That's the purpose of all of this. And it's meant to get you to look up. It's meant to get you to focus on the stars. Not that that needs to be some kind of endless seeking where you give your power away. Look at the stars in the same way you would look in a spiritual mirror. That's why these many celestial objects are showing up. It's literally designed to get you to bring your focus up here. It's designed to get you to be more third eye centric, more crown centric. Because right now on Earth, there are so many forms of stimulation. There are so many captivating things that one can glorify and one can give their energy to. And some of those things have a very addictive component. Your technology, social media is an example of this. So there's many captivating physical things. There's many captivating physical pleasures. So to ensure that your species is able to bring its attention higher, these multi-dimensional phenomenon are occurring, and these contact experiences are occurring, and these celestial objects, comets, and meteors are being detected. It's designed to get you to look up. It's designed to get you to connect once more with those upper chakras so you can access those powers.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And our last question for today will be, please share what it truly means to embody the frequency of home, not as a place, but as a living vibration within my being. How may I anchor the essence in my heart?
This is a very powerful energy. And for some that hear the answer, there may be some emotions that come up. And it may even bring some things up. To this question, our answer may even provoke resistances in some people. With this idea we're sharing, you don't have to wear it if you don't want to, but it will align you with that fractal alignment we described earlier. The closest experience physically that you have to true home is the mother's womb. Physically speaking, that is the closest physical experience that can be had that represents that home. And I'll explain why. In that fetal state, one is totally receptive. They are receiving from the greater reality and they're completely open to it. There's natural filtration, so the energy they take in is clean and healthy for them. They simply absorb and take in the energy and they dream. They dream the lifetime. The fetus dreams the lifetime. And it is informed by the signals and the energy and the nutrients coming into its body through that greater body that is the mother. That's not so different from the soul perspective, the higher perspective of the oversoul. In that level, one is in total alignment with their environment. They are freely giving and receiving energy with the greater system, and they use that nutrition to dream multidimensional dreams that become realities, that become worlds. So it's like the oversoul dreams the soul dreams the physical body, the physical fetus dreams the lifetime. Dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams. So if you can return to that state that is the fetal state, you will naturally become aligned with that luminous network that goes all the way from you on the physical level to you as the monad. So right now, we have described that you are all within a universal body. That's, of course, a projection of consciousness, fundamentally. If you were to observe it in a way the physical mind can understand, it's like you are in a massive bubble. You're also the center point of that bubble, each of you, regardless of where you're located. You're all the center point of that infinite universe bubble. This universe bubble is like that greater mother. You are like the womb. Your soul is the fetus. So you're still in that womb. It's just a greater womb. And when you can holds that awareness, all experiences become a gift from the Great Mother. All experiences. This is the return to what is described in your Kabbalistic texts as the Garden of Eden or the Garden of Delight. And that's not the highest level. There's levels way beyond that. But it is that return to the mother in that way that translates as a return to Eden. And of course, the mysteries of Eden reveal the creational powers that are the building blocks. So greater realities can be summoned forth and birthed through you. We thank you for that question. We thank you, dear host, for taking the questions, for sharing your love, your connection with us this day. We thank you, dear audience, for joining us and submitting your questions. These were very exquisite questions, and more of the mystery has been revealed. We thank you for summoning this information and energy forth in the way that you have. May it continue to inform you, guide you, and inspire you as you navigate the multi-dimensional adventure that is your physical reality living dream. Our unconditional love to you all now and always. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys had a fantastic time. That was a super deep transmission. Great job fielding those questions, Mario and Lynn, because there was a lot of ancient mysteries and specifically the modern mysteries of these newly discovered comets, celestial objects. So I'm glad we got to get into this. Thank you guys for diving deep with us. This has been a great kickstart to the Friday. If you want to take it even deeper, in about 5 minutes, we're going to launch the Magick ritual. So if you want to join me for deep astral projection, candle magic, and esoteric visualization, that is the key to the door of the new parallel reality, and come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to sign off now. I'll see you guys at the events, and I'll see you guys here next Friday for our upcoming live stream. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.